Dato, turn on your microphone. Hello Dato, you tak on microphone.
Microphone is
Sekarang dah on dah.
alright.
Okay. Now present now.
Present now.
Window. Click this one. Click share. Okay.
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 Okay. Okay.
After we come back.
Alright.
Okay.
Close the door. Okay, shall we start?
Alright.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay lah. Okay lah. Good morning. Selamat sejahtera. And I should thank your senior lecturer for arranging this talk. It was supposed to be at your faculty, and since because of this pandemic, so we all are doing online. And I also learned a lot from her. You know, I also learned a lot from her, and we will talk a little bit on the ethics in the laboratory animal research. And while we are talking on this, there will be a lot of questions you may have. You can note down the question, and then I can able to answer them. And you must know that in UITM, in Pujalam, the Faculty of Pharmacy, we have a big unit of breeding the rodents, and we supply throughout Malaysia. We go to the next slide. The next slide is talks about how laboratory animal has contributed in research throughout the years from the very past 1924, and then after 1963 there was a guideline set up by America. One thing, most of the things we always refer to America because they developed most of those guidelines very early. And looking into the history background in Malaysia or throughout the world, we have people in the medical, pharmacy, veterinary, dental, and allied sciences, defense, and contract research organizations doing research. And this includes both undergraduate, postgraduate, as well as research officers. Now, when you look into the term of the contribution of laboratory animal in research, the type of animal used I've listed up. Rodents, there are different types of rodents, and now they use ferrets as well as civets. Companion animals, they use dogs and cats. Dogs is very close to human, and then rabbits is very commonly used. Primates is very seldom in Malaysia. Now, only university that uses monkeys are USM as well as University Malaya. And then fish.
Sorry, Dato. Is
Ah,
it, sorry for interruption. Is it possible you can make it full screen for your slides?
full screen. Okay.
Thank you.
Can I?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Why is blinking? Okay, shall I continue?
Yep, please. Thank you.
Ah, now lately, zebrafish has been widely been used because the cost is very cheap, and to maintain the zebrafish is cheaper, space-wise. A lot of advantages in zebrafish, and then we also use chicken, including like ducks, turkey, goose, and farm animals are mostly been used by veterinary profession, and sometimes there are certain people they use wild animals. Now, if you look at this, the whole scenario, it all depends on the cost, how much the animal costs, the facilities supposed to be have been built, and zebrafish is the one which can even be kept in small tanks, and they can do a lot of research. Now, looking at this type of animals, each animal has got its own pros and cons. That means certain animals have been used for certain type of research, certain they have been not been used, and then there are a lot of what do you call advantages and disadvantage in each animal. Now, the whole ethics in animal research is based on these five freedoms of animal. These five freedom came in lately in the 1980s, and this was been coined by the five principles like freedom from hunger and thirst. That means we know, isn't it? That means we keep the animal very fully occupied in terms of the physiology, eating. Discomfort, that means they must be able to provide any appropriate environmental enrichment, so where they can have no discomfort in their cages or wherever they're living. They must be free from pain, injuries, and disease. And this is what we like to emphasize where researchers doing work. The animal should not suffer from pain. And then freedom from fear and stress, stress due to some noises, and then some mental suffering of the animal. And then the animal must have the freedom to express its normal behavior. That means it's able to stretch its arms, stretch its legs, do a little bit of grooming. So this is what briefly it means, the five freedoms. And based on these five freedoms, we go on doing animal research. Now, these three R's is based on Russell and Birch in 1959. This is the one which I took it from Google, both of them. And they came up with the idea of these three R's. And now lately we have four R's and five R's. So number one is replacement. Whether it can be avoid using live animals, then straight away can go on animal testing models or computerized models. you try to reduce the number of animals that have been used, minimize, so you have a better design, at least minimum 6 animals, so that it's be appropriate for the statistical analysis, and your whole procedure must be very refined, and eventually you minimize suffering and distress, and a very good housing should be given. Next, we go on to talk a little bit on the UITM committee for animal research. In short, we call it as UITM CARE. The word CARE stands for Committee for Animal Research and Ethics. So it's very well coined by, in the very beginning, when the research was started in UITM, Sharla, with the Faculty of Pharmacy. So those days, about 5 years ago, the medical faculty has got their own committee on ethics. The pharmacy has got their own, these two. And now lately, for the last 2 years, both all been combined together, and it's now been handled by UITM Care, by the Faculty of Pharmacy. So whoever the branches in UITM branches, for example, you in Korapila or other branches, they like to do research, have to go through this UITM Care, basically. Am I too fast? Are you all able to follow? Huh? Hello?
Okay, Dato.
I'm
Follow, huh?
okay with it.
Okay. Now, a little bit on this UITM Care, the composition of these people. There are 11 people there. Professor Binda from the medical faculty is a physiologist. He's the chairman. And we have my staff, Hidayah, being the secretary. Then the rest of the people are in the committee. I like to emphasize on this Gurmeet Singh. He is environmentalist, so he's not a researcher, but he will looking into the terms of welfare. And this Sofyan is from the Aramai, where he always comes in and steps in and to take note of what's going on. And we have also people from the law faculty, and that thing is still vacant. We are supposed to get it in. Now, the role of IACUC, that means each university has got their own, they call it as the ICOP committee, and they have to see they implement these 3 principles. And later we will come to the approval and how the forms are to be filled. And these forms are available in the UITM RMI website as well as the pharmacy website, and it should be sent into secretary. We'll come to the next part when we deal with the form in detail. This is how to write a research proposal. You have to justify the scientific merit, why animals are needed, why alternatives could not be adopted, and any biohazardal materials being used, and the ethical procedure of the humane care of proper conduct of the research. We don't want animals to suffer at the time when the research has been conducted, or during the process of any surgery. They should have sufficient painkillers to relieve them from pain. These are the 3 R's in ethical review processes. That means I talked to you earlier on replacement, and then you should able to publish, the PR, that is a PI, the principal investigator, should able to have good contacts with the good impact journals with good references, and they should able to tell what are the other procedures has been conducted. We must see that there's no any duplication of the experiments, no duplication. For example, a lot of people, they work with curcumin and they come up with the same thing again and again. Should not have any repetition. And there must be a cost beneficial ratio. And sometimes certain procedures, some of the procedures are very good. They have followed 1 or 2 good procedures, like work on the brain, and then on dental. You must have this knowledge of sharing data as well as sharing tissues. That means if somebody is doing a work and then they have not had injected any hazardous substances, whatnot, the tissue can be shared by another researcher. So that means we are trying to reduce the number of animals we are going to use. There's more beneficial effect. And there is some sort of this historical data in terms of reducing the number. better animal welfare, logistic, as well as the economic side of it. The other R's is rehabilitation. For example, in UITM pharmacy faculty, we use rodents for experiments, I mean, for student experiment. After the experiment, the animals are taken off, we rehabilitate the animal, and then we can use back the animal for other research. You can reuse the animal, and this will be certified by the veterinarian that this animal has not undergone any trial using any drugs. For example, like simple things like anesthesia, things like reflexes, where you want to teach the students, and then the animal can use. Eventually, it's a responsibility of the researchers. The principal investigator or the co-principal investigator must have a good support in terms of the policies that be laid out by LAFAM so they can conduct experiment. For example, now with this period of this coronavirus outbreak, there are some students who have that want to do the research, but due to the age of the rodents, so we have to euthanize them. So age is a very important factor for all the research animals. Now, some of the what do you call principles you should know is the standing operating procedure (SOP) or a good laboratory practice. For example, there are some branches of UITM. They have small animal houses, or they convert a room into an animal house, and they cannot able to put up some standard procedures. Some, for example, in UITM Shalam, the Faculty of Science, they have the so-called as what do you call these the shipment boxes. Uh, they use that and they start keeping animals because they don't have any places. The other important aspect in ethics is personal protective gear or some of the occupational hazard. Maybe this is a good lesson with this COVID-19. People will know how to protect themselves from any hazardous things or any occupational hazard they can uh, receive or they can acquire from this animal. The husbandry practices of laboratory animals. Each of the species has got their own way of taking care, and that's why when we conduct workshop at our faculty, it's a 2-day workshop. We will teach them how to look after various animals. For example, mostly people, means researchers now, they're working on rodents, rats, and mice, and very few of them have gone to the rabbits because rabbit is quite expensive to them because one rabbit it costs about 250 to 300 ringgit, and it's a slightly bigger animal. It needs more husbandry practice. Husbandry means the way we keep and then the way we handle this animal. Other thing is handling and restraint techniques. This is where we teach the students how to researchers to do this handling, and only students or researchers who have gone through this 2 days intensive workshop, including an examination on practical, only if they have got a certificate, they are then can do the laboratory animal research. Without any attending and running these courses, they are not encouraged. I mean, they cannot undertake any research in our faculty. But there are other universities like UKM, UPM, University Malaya. They do offer this type of workshop. They can also attend them, and their certificates are being recognized by UITM. The next we'll teach about route of administration of a certain medicines and drugs. Then how you collect fluids from various routes. The other aspect is most of them, they have to anesthetize the rodents. So we teach them on anesthesia. And towards the end is the euthanasia technique, how to put down an animal to sleep. In my experience doing with the students and the number of workshops I've conducted for the last 9 to 10 years, even before the animal could have died, some of the researchers or students, they will just throw it into the yellow bin. And sometimes we'll see that the animal is still alive and we'll take a serious action on those students who do that. And for example, when they are working with rodents, mostly our students are a bit scared, worried, because they will bite. Okay, so we tell them to use cloth gloves and not the latex gloves, so that they can be protected. And there are some of the students, a little bit blood comes in, they get bit panic, and then they undergo 1 day fever, and then they'll be all right. And all our animals are clean and been tested for both ecto and endoparasite. And we don't test them for any virus because we don't have the facilities. And eventually is your suturing techniques and other post-operative care. This one, a researcher will learn in small groups to pertaining to a particular technique. And the last part is the necropsy technique. We have a separate workshop on how to do necropsy and how to take tissue samples and how to preserve them and how to do the slicing and how to do the mounting. Now, laboratory animal science is an emerging new field. Therefore, we need trained manpower, and we need both the senior and the junior level of people to be involved in this. And here we give certification after the training, and this is very mandatory. And this training course can be of a short duration, and these may vary according to facilities. Some facilities, they have a longer training period, particularly for FYP project student, the final year project student. We give them a bit more lengthier time because they are young, and then number two, they have never been exposed. Even though in the schools, when they are doing HSC, higher school leaving certificate or matriculation, there are certain colleges or schools, they use frogs and rats to teach them of the basic. So you see, they are not handling this very often. So when they come back, they tend to forget some of those ideas. One thing you should know, veterinary animal, laboratory animal medicine and surgery, the specialized field of veterinary medicine. If you're a veterinarian, you only been trained for 5 years in domestic animals and companion animals like sheep, goats, cattle, dogs, cats, this thing. They never touch the laboratory animal, and this is a specialized field of veterinary medicine. So they may be a 3-hour lecture they'll give. At the time, students may be not very much interested. So their thinking is to clear the exam and come out first from the faculty after spending such a long period of 5 years. The next is why don't we use alternative use any other alternative in animal experiment. These are some of the things they have been using on cell-based assay, and then using culture, using mammalians, non-mammalian. Like now, people have gone to working on shrimps, as I told you about zebrafish, and there are different techniques which they do, and they learn, and where they only use tissue culture. Basically, if you want to do work with animals, first you have to do some initial work with some tissue culture. And then after performing that, you want to do a reality work in terms of mammals, and then you go into the so-called as the experimental animal. This is very important on the husbandry practices and the code of ethics. You see, code of ethics, I would say it all depends on how the student or the researchers has been brought up, the culture they practice in their homes and in their places of where they are working or in the lab. Mostly students like to go on shortcut. They like to do it very, very fast, and then they like to run away. We have seen students, they after finishing experiment, they don't even euthanize the animal. They will just leave it like that, and they will already book the bus or the flight to go back to Kota Baru, Terengganu, or etc. So basically, in the ethics, you must see there is enough of nutrition, and this food is all is pelleted food. So normally, it's we give. They must see that enough ad libitum. That means to completely filled up with food and water. There are cases where animals have no access to water and they've died of dehydration. This is number one. Your animal cages, enclosures, you must see the spacing. You don't put more than 3 mice in a cage, depending on the size, and you don't put more than 2 rats on a particular cage. There are some they'll put 5 to 6, trying to economize the cages. That should not be. The other thing is the bedding. You must have good bedding. In Uitm, we use Concord. That's quite expensive. The other thing, anything to do with lab animal medicine, everything is very costly in Malaysia. Because they all import, everybody wants to make a cut and they become very expensive. So now what we do in our faculty or in Puncak Alam, whoever uses, who do this paper mesh trading, the trash papers, we will collect and they all will come to our faculty and we use them also for bidding. For student project, we use bidding so they can use this threaded paper and the rodents, they make very good nests. The other one is climate control. This is basically when you are keeping these rodents, you must see the temperature, you must measure the relative humidity, the type of ventilation, and there should not be excess light. That means 12 hours dark and 12 hours of daylight and night, 24 hours. So you must see there will be no noise, any disturbances. This is what I like to emphasize on enrichment behavior or environmental enrichment. This is very complex, but again, it depends. If you look at some of the pictures here, you can see the type of enrichment they have given in some of those rabbits and then these rats. The animals should be very free and happy to roam about. They should not be just been put as though they are in a prison, just with the cage, looking at the cage. So we give a lot of environmental enrichment, and this one is a different workshop. We teach people how to do enrichment using our cotton, uh, the worst, if they cannot get, they must use what you call tissue papers. You put some tissue paper, they'll try to make some nest. We collect all the tissue paper, the brown, what you call the tissue holders. We put them, they make. Then we give a lot of flowers, hibiscus flowers, and other enrichment. Now, these enrichment that one is advocating, or if, one is what is putting a policy in the animal that should not interfere with the experiment. That is very important. If, for example, you're looking at something on blood parameters or something that you have injected, you want to see, you can't use any ingredients that it can be consumed, like hibiscus flowers or your insulin plant, or even you can any materials but interfere with the results. So we can use like the coconut shell. You can shave it, we can clean it very well. You can put it. They will try to sit down, and like a swing, they will climb to hide. Now, the maintenance and hygiene is very important, and that's what we always have, and we make a lot of noise. Basic handling, health monitoring. We tell students, you come and see your animals early in the morning. You have time, see in the afternoon, and then towards the end, before you go home, you look at the animal and see there's sufficient food. And this one is very difficult to implement because I told you earlier, laboratory animal is a specialized field in veterinary medicine. So it's very difficult for them to follow. Somebody must be behind. The other thing is transporting animals. If you look at the history in Malaysia, animals have been transported from one institution to another institution. Because they've not been transported in air-conditioned vehicle, they have died of heat stress, not enough of water, and also in the mode of transportation, which is not very good. The last is, before you do euthanasia, you must have good records on the animals. And the last, we teach you how to do euthanasia. There are three methods of euthanasia. One, in any rodents less than 100 grams, we can use cervical dislocation. Then the other one, you can use carbon dioxide, CO2. That's very good if you want looking for some of the parameters of blood or whatnot. And the last one, using drugs, euthanasia drugs. We have pentobarbital, or we call it as a euthanasia solution. It is about 200 mg of pentobarbital per ml, so we can inject on this. We go to the next one. One should know some of the animal legislation in Malaysia. See, just before the Animal Act was formed in 2019, we were all practicing the Animal Ordinance of 1953. This was established by the British, and now we have got the Animal Welfare Act. Let me say, this Animal Welfare Act, we give to the researchers, and there is a clause, particularly on clause number 26. It says that animal use in research, testing, and teaching. There is certain criteria they should follow. If not, they will be subjected to fines, etc. And they will come to that later if there's any question. Veterinary Surgeons Act, Animal Feed Act, and then this was some time back. We were trying to develop with more steam to look into animal legislation, and after some of them when they retired, nobody followed up because when you look into data, always they said in America they use about 1 million animal per year. In Malaysia, we wanted to collect the data, how many animals, rodents been used for research. So we in UITM, we have got this number of animals that have been used and the number of animals that have been produced. And at some time, the ministry is interested, they can collect these data, and this can form a good resource material for people who like to do work. These are some of the non-governmental NGOs we have for animal ethics, like SPCA, FOS, and then we have this Laboratory Animal Science Association, LASAM. I think some of you could be members there. This has been started, it's almost now on the 25th year, I think so. So here they give you a lot of courses, a lot of workshop, lectures, before the AGM, we have some talks, etc. The Malaysian National Animal Welfare Foundation is another one, and we have some other things which are not related to laboratory animals. Now, when you come to wild animal research, there are a lot of people have worked in UKM, they worked with porcupines, and these are dusky leaf monkey, or dusky, or they call it as lotong. Lotong. We got three types of leaf monkeys: dusky, then we have this silver leaf monkey, and then we have the banded leaf monkey. These monkeys or primates, dusky leaf monkey, they are potential carriers of microfilaria. This one has been extensively been worked in IMR. Those days in the 1980s, been worked for microfilaria as well as for malaria. And macaques have been used widely. And there are people they want to use. Now presently, the only place where they have primates in the country is one, a good colony, a clean colony in IMR, Institute of Medical Research in Jalan Pahang. And they have a colony at USM Kubang Kriang, and there is 4 imported long-tail macaques from Vietnam. These are sterile animals. They are working on some Plasmodium knowlesi parasites, the blood parasite. So these are people now working with primates. There are a lot of people who make a big AY and cry, but I think it should be allowed. When I did my master's in UPM way back in 1979, I had a program there which is known as a primate unit with a lot of primates like long-tailed macaque, then the silver-leaf monkey, and then we have gibbons. We worked on that. And then that was a funding we had from University of Cambridge, from NHI, and from NHI US. And after some time, nobody wanted to work with that, so the whole building collapsed, and all the animals were sent back to the zoo, and some of them were euthanized. So this is very expensive to maintain, and it's very interesting to work with primates, as a lot of work has been done, but they're expensive. And you should look into terms of reducing stress and injuries to animal, and to see that you adopt a method where it does not cause any injuries. Like, for example, this rabbit is because of the skin irritant test. So when you see the rabbit has gone to this stage, we will do a culling, we will do an endpoint. That means no further research to be conducted. These are using eye irritable lotions for testing on it. So we won't allow this type of experiments. And particularly with students, since we have got in Punchalam, Uitm, I'm there, we've got 6 assistant veterinary officers. We train them, and sometimes they supervise students. And any mistakes they make, we will rectify them. And we constantly have a monthly meeting with them to see any problems they're facing, and we try to help them. The other one, I remember I told earlier, your sharing session. Since it's a new field and people want to work with animals, they feel a bit nervous. When you got any new information, how to train a new technique, you must share among your researchers. Don't try to keep it to yourself. And sometimes there are people who know the knowledge, they don't want to teach others, they just keep quiet. When they make a mistake, they don't tell that you're making a mistake. So what happens in my association with UITM, I check at the animals kept at the medical faculty, animals kept at the faculty of allied sciences, and then at the faculty of science in Shalam, as well as in Jalam. If there's any mistakes, then I will tell them how to rectify. But I also gone on my own account to Kubang Kriang, UPM, IMR, many facilities, without introducing myself, to see how animals have been kept, because I'm one a person who don't like to see animals being suffering in the cages. The worst what they do is they don't feed them, and there is no food. And when they give food, they will give spoiled or molded food. And they know they don't eat, they just do it and go back. Okay, I think we are coming towards the end. So I'd just like to put this statement, said by this gentleman. The greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way the animals are treated. Let me extend a little bit further. 27th Monday was a tapir day, where our tapirs have been in major problem, been knocked out by the roads, and we don't care for what are the animals have been, how the animals have been doing. So the only person who were able to look into this aspect after what we call Mahatma Gandhi was this gentleman. Can anybody recognize who is this man? Can yes, right. You're the first one so far who have answered that. When I tell them, they say all different names, because I've taken the photograph without his formal dress of the Sonkola. So with these, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I think I've taken only about 45 minutes. 45 minutes or 50 minutes?
About that, Dato.
So with this, we end this part of the talk. Any questions?
All right, Dato, I'm Eddie here. I have an announcement for all the participants, online participants. There is a link provided in the chat room, especially for Uitm Cawangan Negeri Sembilan staff who have attended this session. You may click the link and try to fill in the attendance and do a brief survey. Yeah? Now, I would like to open the virtual floor for question and answer. And for all the participants, you may post the question in the chat room, or you can just turn on your mic because we are just having a small group here. If you, if Dato is okay with it, so I think, yeah, for the participant, you can just turn on the mic and you can just talk to the Dato directly.
I can see your faces now. You saw my faces now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can see your faces.
If possible, if probably you want to, what we call that, turn off your presentation first.
Okay.
So that we can see you. Yeah. Yeah. Now.
Okay. Yeah, I can see. Yeah.
All right. Any question from the floor?
Dato, what type of experiment normally we categorize as no risk for ethics? So, because ada setengah yang kita tak payah isi borang ethics kan, tapi what type of research yang kita boleh kecualikan daripada isi borang IQ?
There's no such thing. All people using animals must easy that borang ethics. That's number one. Even if you're working with mosquitoes, cockroaches, butterflies, any living creatures, including zebrafish, you have to apply for the ethics. There's no such thing. There's any other experiment which doesn't have any much interference with the animal. Even if you want to study on some mosquitoes, yes, you have to do it. And we want to study with lipas or chichat, also you must have the ethics. Or even if you want to using stray, what do you call rats. A lot of students using this Bandaraya, the local town municipalities, they capture the rats and they look for lepto, look for these, look for ectoparasite. Yes, they have to undergo this course and they have to fill up the ethics form. That's a must. Okay.
Yeah, that I have a question, especially when look through the animal ethics application. It looks like very tough and not easy to deal with it, especially for those who are not from the medical background or veterinary background. It is probably very hard for us to start up an animal research project. So can you give us like a piece of advice? What is the first step that we need to do if we are really keen in doing this kind of small animal research with Uitm Punca Alam? What should we do first before we start up with the animal ethical proposal or seeking for the approval?
Our Uitm care form is the simplest of all in this country. If you compare USM, University Malaya, UPM, they are very complex. Ours is very simple and straightforward. That's number one. Number two, if you want to do any work with animals, you must have some friends. Whoever been working before, try to follow him and to see whether you can grasp up some of the ideas which are given or some of the mistakes they have gone through. That is the only best way. And always is better if you have any friends, veterinarians, or any senior people who have been working with animals to join them together into your research committee. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. For another question, it's about the zebrafish fish research. If let's say we want to have the zebrafish research, especially dealing with the toxicological study, for example, if you want to do it in what we call that Uitm Cawangan Negeri Sembilan, do you think it can be done?
Oh, yes.
And can it be done without the animal ethics approval? What is the consequences of doing that kind of research without the animal ethical approval?
See, the first thing is all creatures living defined under the animal ordinance as well as the Animal Welfare Act of 2015. We should go through that form. Number two, it's very easy to do with zebrafish because you don't need much space. You can have your own tank, and a lot of toxicological work is done with zebrafish. The other part of the question I couldn't grasp it. What's the other part?
What is the consequences if we are doing zebrafish toxicological research without ethical approval? We just, like as you said just now, with only a small space, and then it is very easy to do without approval. Any consequences that we need to take note?
Yeah, a very important thing nowadays when you publish articles, they will ask your ethical approval number and your certificate of approval. You cannot publish. In short, you can't publish your data in any of the journals. So they are more and more concerned now. That's it.
So it will be like a short sendiri kind of project in the end.
That's right. Any question yet?
Any question from the floor? Let me check the chat room. There is a question from Dr. Izati. Hi, Dato, usually how long does it take for an application to get an approval?
Okay, this is very important question. You know, most of them, they always complain it's very difficult to get the meeting to be done, and then take long time. We have gone through those problems, and the committee meets once every month on the first Friday. If it happens to be the first Friday a public holiday, then it's the second Friday of the month. If there is no applications, for example, there's only one or two, then we do it by circulation through email, through the committee, through the members, and then they get the approval. If they feel that that person needs to be present there to present, and then they will say, yeah, they'll give you a date to come and to present. Basically, when I come to the form, I explain to you your research which you all are doing, either FYP or the lecturer's research, it should be presented into your faculty meeting, or in your faculty you have your research committee, should be endorsed and been presented there, and then only you can submit it to the Uitm care for final approval. And if you don't get signed, approved by your faculty or research committee, they will turn down the application. But sometimes a lot of frustration, the grant is already there, the money is there, and then we can't get the ethics very fast. Then you say we cannot start up with the work. Then the other places where people make noise is they can't get a student to do the research. Okay, they have to wait for the student, and then they have to wait. And sometimes the time passes, and what the faculty does or the committee does, they try to help every one of you all to go through it very smoothly. The more frustration is at the time of amending. Any mistakes, they'll ask you to amend, and then that can be the amending part will be a problem. You may feel a bit difficult. The other thing is, if you can, in our faculty, what happens, some of the members, since I'm there, they will go through with me, and when it comes to the UITM care, it's just only a run through, very easy. So if we can get somebody that, for example, I do with Srin, I do with the Nilai school, the school of the Faculty of Pharmacy in Nilai, and if somebody can go through that, it'll make it much more easier.
So the fastest approval, the duration for the fastest approval, how long does it take that you have seen so far?
If it so happens that, for example, we are meeting the next Friday, 1st May. I mean, the first month May. 1st May is happens to be a public holiday. So they're meeting on the 8th or the 7th. If your application has just come, say 1 week earlier, you're lucky lah. If your application has come, say on the 30th of April, you're lucky. Your application has come on the 1st of April, then you were waited for 30 over days lah. So normally what happens, you can always communicate with us. We communicate with Lapam. We have a staff there, particularly her name is Hidayah. She will able to tell you that, maybe submit, and then she can go through and tell you all that which is incorrect. Certain forms without the approval of the faculty signature, your committee, that automatically it is been rejected.
All right, another question from Sarah Shazwani. If the type of study only involves small weight or muscle tissues, will this type of study need to fill in the form? Not quite sure. What does it mean here? Is it meaning the tissue samples or animal?
Yeah, that we call it as sharing of tissue. Remember in the talk I say about sharing, somebody is doing some work, then before you want to euthanize, then somebody wants to take a tissue, she can do it, but she has to also get the ethical approval, and for her it's very easy because they're only going to take the tissue from animal that died. For example, in the faculty of pharmacy, a lot of people who work with skin, the skins of rodents. So they want skin sample. For a skin, you no need to go and get rats, buy the rats and do it. They can always do the rats that has been almost going to be euthanized. You just harvest the skin and do. So, for example, if somebody wants to work on dental, we will just give the head of some other animal they've used, but they can say, and the samples will be shared. For example, just like organ donation, when you write before we die that you want to donate your eye or these things to your son, you sign up a form, so they can write there. She's not going to order any animals, no new animal. She's going to share from that particular research. And that's very much easy. And it's very easy, they won't ask many much questions. Maybe the questions will be how you look after the animal. And sometimes they don't know, how to look after the, what type of anesthesia to give, what type of food. That is stuck.
Okay. Another question from Swaiba. Dato, can you briefly show the forms that we need to fill up for IACUC application?
You want me to do that form now or do after other question? I have that form. Should we do it now or later?
Swaiba, do you want to view it now?
Or later?
I think you can show it now to the
just
rest of
briefly,
us. Just briefly to the rest of us. What kind of question? What kind of form that we need to fill up for ICOOP?
Yeah, how now how shall I turn the slide? Yeah.
Are you available tomorrow?
I'm available tomorrow, yeah.
What time is available?
After 1 o'clock.
After 1 o'clock.
Okay,
so
thank
I
you.
will be reached around 1:30 like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye.
Sorry, how to go on my next slide? Hold on, I'll get the slide.
Sorry again?
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Okay, bye.
You can open and present now, Dato.
Open and press. I must close this,
Open first and then present now. Oh.
Terus hilang.
Kejap lagi dia masuk sebab dia tak pandai nak. Dia tak pandai nak present terus.
Okay.
We'll come back in, Dato.
Yeah. Nice.
Have you opened the lecture?
Open.
Okay, minimize this one. Go to Google. Present now. Window. Cancel this one. Minimize. Okay. Go to your lecture. See, it didn't open. Okay. We open this one. Is
Here's
it
the
power?
word.
Okay, open. Close and reopen. Okay, so reopen.
Yeah.
No, reopen your lecture. Okay. Now you go to your meet. Okay. Now go to present now window. Okay. Click. No. Click present.
Yeah.
Double tap. No. Okay.
Stop sharing.
No, don't stop sharing. That means it's already sharing now. If you click stop, it will stop.
You got it there?
Okay. Go back.
Yeah. We can see the form now.
Yeah.
Click this one.
Yeah.
Click. Okay. That's it.
Okay. The formula. That's the form.
We can see the form now.
I can see.
Click here.
Okay. See the form, you're presenting. Okay, I'll go through one by one. The one is here, it's the UITM care is Committee on Animal Research and Ethics. Your proposal number, the date of the hard copy that been received by our faculty. Okay. Then you go on to the title of your project, the name of principal investigators, other co-investigators, if it's a student, your student number and what program, and then your office address of the principal investigator. This is important. Is the PA has got adequately trained for animal procedures proposed? Either the co-PA or PA must be trained and have previous experience and close certificates. Okay, this one clear, you must have enclose a certificate, yes or no.
I just wonder, Dato, do LAFAM provide this kind of training, like the 2 days handling and restraint technique?
Yeah, we do all this training. We have already planned our training. The first training is supposed to be done on the 7th and the 8th of April this month due to this the pandemic. So it has been called off. So we will have to reschedule again.
The approximate cost for the training?
That's very important. For all UITM staff, it's about 400 ringgit, 4 to 500 ringgit. Other universities is about 600 ringgit. If more than 5 participants, there is a reduction. Reduction is given.
Okay.
And the faculty of pharmacy is free for them. So
it will be good for us to have a member from the Faculty of Pharmacies, right?
if you have a co-researcher from your faculty, our faculty, everything you get free
All right, that's good.
Or this thing is free, all is free. So that's why sometimes they try to link up with some of these. But if somebody wants to work with me, and then it's free already But the fee that we charge is the lowest in the country. The reasons are, number one, UITM Punca Alam is very far, almost near Kuala Selangor already, Ijo Kuala Selangor. Number two is a remote area. And then number three, long distance of traveling, and they have to come and get the accommodation in the hostel or the hotel there. Shall I proceed?
Yes.
Okay. The funding and your duration of the project. Here people make mistake, You can always extend your period. You don't put a duration of the period, say for example, 1st January 2002 to June and your application only coming in June. So you can always put the date a bit longer. It's a mistake they make. And as the project been present, and this is where your faculty, research committee, or if you don't have a research, I think most of the faculty have a research committee one. They should endorse this and sign this. If they don't sign, then the borang will tenang balik lah. This is on the detail of the animals which you're going to use. What species, age, weight, total number, how many males, how many females you want, where you're getting the animal from, are you getting it from La Farm or other institution, or are you importing? If you're importing, then you must have copy of health certificate and your import permit. This is done. So if you're getting it from a dealer in Seremban, and then you must do quarantine. Not a problem are there lah. And then your animal, you can put in more animals is not a problem, but you must see statistically whether your results can be used. Minimum 6 animals. Majority of the researchers, they use female animals, not the male animal. I mean, use the male, not the female, because of hormonal imbalance, So this part is, you have to be very clear lah. What are you going to write? How you transport the animal from the vendor to your place of work, that you must specify. Normally, it must be in an air-conditioned van or a car lah. If it's from La Farm, you can, no problem. There's no transportation. It's just straight from La Farm. Explain the procedure to be carried out on the animals. Please enclose the flow chart of your research and protocol as annex. This one you have to write in detail. You can expand this form and you must write the procedures. And when you are doing a procedure, and you must give some reference who have done this before, that you are referring to what. And then your flow chart, that's important, because flow chart will tell you number of animals that have been used, how long the period, what's the next going to do. That is, this is can be from your proposal, your research proposal that you have already given to your faculty, can be duplicated here in terms of the flow chart. And also advisable, you can attach your research proposal that is given to your faculty. They can refer to that also. And then the other one is your main objective of your project. Justify why you want to use animal. And why cannot use other replacement, why you can't use tissue culture, another thing, and what particular strain you are required for the study. Here you must tell, you can only use animals if you're going to take biological materials like blood, tissue sample, or histopathology, etc., etc. So then you must tell that work has already been done with tissue culture. Now we want to work with live animal, and to get your data or your research done to be more useful for mankind. So you must able to state the justification. And then what the estimated number required is already up there, and you can put it here. The similar experiment has been carried out in the past, if not, what reference, etc. Does they require any surgical procedure? If yes, what are the pre-post operative care you're going to give, and the name of the drugs and the dosage. Now this is using hazardous radioactive material that you document it. What happened after the research? Will you going to sacrifice the animal or no? For example, some people use rabbit. They just simply the rabbit, after that they eat lah. So I am not for it. Some people, they say, okay, what to do? They're not going to use. They're working with cardiovascular system, and the work is finished, and then they can cull the animal and they can eat it, sacrifice lah. And then what type of sacrifice they're going to do? That's why I told you just now, whether you're going to use carbon dioxide, or you're doing cervical dislocation, or whether you're going to use any anesthetic drugs or euthanasia drugs like pentobarbital. Name the drug, the dosage, and the route, and explain how the carcass will be disposed. For example, in Kolapila, if you're doing how you're going to dispose the carcass, Normally, you have to keep in a deep freezer, and you must have a contractor or somebody who takes these carcasses and they incinerate in an incinerator. If you don't have an incinerator, if you want to bury the carcass, that can be also can be done. You can bury the carcass. That's what we want to know. Why is this? Is because these rodents, clean ones. Sometimes, ever since I've been there, I own cull. We give it to zoos or people having reptiles or birds. They can feed them for food, so we give it to them. The other one is a method of the killing, as I told you, lah. There's now all the 3-4 methods, and then you must classify your project comes under what under the pain and distress under which one under B, C or D. So yes, written lah what is B, C, D and E. E is animals subjected to potential pain, stressful procedures, and will not be revived with anesthesia, analgesic, etc., etc. This is E lah. Mostly is only on B lah, B and C. Okay, and this is the declaration by the PI, principal investigator, will then declare and then they sign. That's it, and then the chairman gets approval. And here it's been told what are the categories of pain. They're going into a bit of more detail. But I think the form is quite simple. If you think it's a bit difficult,
yeah, indeed. I think this is a more simple. It is a simple version for animal ethics. Yeah. Dato, we have a couple of more questions here.
Yeah.
From Dr. Asia Abdullah. Hi, Dato. How about if we test on human? For example, test for skin moisturizing. Is the procedure for ethic application is the same as the animal?
What happens? We got 2 ethic committees. One you have for the human ethics, and the other one of animal ethics. So the one you have to go through the human ethics committee.
REC.
That's right.
Second question, bagaimana proses yang sebetulnya jika di makmal Kuala Pilah hanya menggunakan ikan dan tikus dalam masa yang singkat dan tidak menyimpan haiwan tersebut? From Sheikh Muhammad.
Ulang sekali.
I think he's asking about the process and the right procedure to handle the fish and the mouse or the rat for a short period of time when we are not keeping the animals.
Okay, you cannot use any other campus or any other resident area to keep. You have to keep it in your room. Fish, very simple. You just simpan dalam fish tank lah. You beli fish tank and then you have CO2 oxygen and then the filtration, no problem. Now simpan macam rodents, rats and mice, about say 6 or 10, and then you want to do a very short experiment to test something, that should be kept in your room also can be kept. We have these nude mice now, nude mice, and they are expensive. They cost about 10 to 12,000 per mice. Most of the researchers like to keep them in their room so that they can monitor the animal in the room while they're there. That's a big.
The room, do you mean the laboratory room or the office room?
In office too.
Office room.
Office. Ramai dia orang simpan. I see Universiti Malaysia. They said my animals are so expensive. I want to do that. And they're breeding very frequently. There's no smell, no odor, and the animals also get enriched by seeing you lah. See you.
Okay, another question from Dr. Nolis, Dato. Does this animal ethics apply for undergraduate students project?
Yes. What happened undergraduate student project? In UITM Puncalam, we allowed one by one to come and present. But in our faculty, at least about 40 of them will be doing the FYP project. Now we have got the members in the committee, like Professor Misatun, Dr. Gurmi, and I am there, 3 of us. We will sit and then we will go through the ethics form. And from this ethics form, we will try to make them amendments, correction or not. And then we will put it to get it, the whole 40 students to be endorsed at the UITM camp. So we will write up, this student doing this, they have gone through this, gone through this. So this is to save the time lah. We do it on a bulk.
I just wonder if that, if we go through the approval through this kind of undergraduate procedure, FYP, do we allow to publish those data in the reputable journal?
Oh yes, yes.
Okay.
So we give you the, after that, the animal welfare, the chairman of the UITM care will issue a certificate one. I mean, a letter authorizing that you have gone through this and can do that. No problem.
Okay. Any more questions from the floor? If no, probably.
Hi,
Yeah.
Dato. I have questions. I am Sarah from Kuala Pilah. Let's say if we plan to convert a room into animal room, where can we get the standard space room or space for to convert a room to animal room? Should we invite a representative from UITM Care to evaluate or audit the room if we want to convert a room into animal room?
That's a system. You can call somebody to come and see and then to advise you, lah, no problem. Basically, what you should have good ventilation, good aeration, temperature.
Dato, it's not very clear. Can you repeat it again?
You should have good ventilation, good lighting, and free from pest control, from pests. And then the other one is washing. How to do your washing? And then there must be a small fridge or freezer to keep the carcasses. So these are some of the basic things lah. But normally you can always ask somebody lah, one of us to come and see and then advise you all, no problem. You know what you call those things? The one the containers. Some universities they use containers. They buy the containers, use containers, they aircon the container, and then they do work there, and they also breed there very well.
Dato, the container size. How can we know the acceptable container size for acceptable type of rat or mice? How many and how? Yeah, the size, the standard. Where can we refer that?
Normally, it is the size of the cage, the box lah. But the normal container, which is about what, how many feet long, the normal one, the medium size is okay lah. Then you must have racks lah. If you have racks, then you must buy these good cages lah. And these cages, you must see how many animals you're going to work on it. Then based on that, then you can buy a bigger container or a medium-sized container. How to see? I can't see anybody.
Thank you, Dato, for that.
Okay. Any more questions for Dato?
Are there any question lagi ya?
Tak ada, eh? Okay. Probably before we end our online sharing session today, Dr. Knowles has left. I have a last question. Any more? Let me check the chat room for a while. Yep, probably a last question from me. Just wonder, the anesthesia and the euthanasia procedures, is the researcher allowed to handle the anesthesia and the euthanasia procedures, or it must be handled by the vet?
No, you got the question, the answer again together with you. It must be from a veterinarian. So normally you should have a visiting veterinarian where they can come and advise you all.
Even the faculty members from the faculty of pharmacy is not enough if they are not from the vet background.
No, faculty of pharmacy, if they are not in the vet background, cannot. They must have the veterinary background.
Okay.
And if the worst come to worst is a visiting vet lah. And the drugs are all under key and lock, and they cause a lot of harm to human. There's a lot of misuse and abuse of the drugs.
Okay.
This misabuse will cause problem with the researchers. And now these are these are controlled drugs, and we have to be responsible lah.
Okay. All right. Okay, I think that's all for today. Before we end our session, I would like to invite our Deputy Rector PJI of UITM Cawangan Negeri Sembilan, Dr. Nolis, to give a few words. Dr. Nolis?
How to see your faces, huh? I can't see lah.
You can't see our faces. You probably need to stop your presentation first.
Stop, huh?
Yeah.
I just close the presentation lah.
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Dr. Nolis, are you there? Yeah.
Okay, good morning, Dato.
Good morning.
Okay, thank you very much for the very informative information for us about animal ethics. And as you know, we have biology school in Kuala Pilah. So most of us doing animal lah as an sample, and also, but I'm not sure whether they use this animal for other like drugs or tissue culture. Maybe because we have a very simple teaching lab, so not until that extent, but we will monitor the experiment, especially the postgrad student lah. Okay, but last year also we last 2 or 3 years we plan to do the animal house, but because of the budget and also the maintenance issue that we cannot proceed with the projects. So I thank you for this webinar session for our staff, and maybe later we will come back to you for the complete procedure after we sit for our mesyuarat penyelidikan negeri to verify on this lah. Maybe I will discuss with Dr. Eddie and also his team for animal ethics flowchart to make it simpler for our staff to understand.
Good initiative, boss.
Okay, that's all, Dato. Thank you very much for this morning session, and we will come back to you after maybe after PKP. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nolis. It has been a pleasure being with all of you today for this 1.5 hours. And thank you, Dato, once again for this wonderful sharing session. And I wish all of you a very good afternoon and goodbye.
Yeah, I wish you all the same, and selamat berpuasa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dato.